DC Marvel crossover movie. I think that would be fun. I'm sure it's like absolutely impossible how tricky the rights issues are, but that would be kind of fun to do, like the JLA versus the Avengers or something. Sure. But I don't really have one outside character that I would like to play.
Is there any actor you'd love to work with? Or do you have like a certain like actor that had to play one role?
Yeah. Come on, yeah.
No, I don't really have anybody I'd like to cast as a certain role, but yeah, there's a bunch of actors. There's tons of them. I can't think of any off the top of my head, but I'm sure there must be.
Well, how does that work? I mean, do you just, like, after you draw Darkseid, you go, wow, Ironside's would be perfect to play Darkseid? How does that connection
In
work?
that case, that actually was that was kind of what happened. Yeah, it was, I think just in the back of my head, I just always thought that he would be perfect for that part. Whether before or after I drew the character, I don't remember.
Why is that? Like, what does Ironside have that Darkseid doesn't?
He's just scary. He's really scary. Like, even in real life, he just scares the crap out of you.
Awesome.
But so like perfect casting for Darkseid.
A lot of times when an actor walks into the booth and starts doing stuff, sometimes he'll change or adjust the character.
Oh yeah,
that.
Quite a bit.
Does that happen? Did that happen at all with Wonder Woman?
Yeah, to a degree. When we brought Carrie in, there was a little bit of a fear that she may have sounded a little bit too contemporary to be Wonder Woman. It's not that she sounded young or too teenagey or anything, but there was something a little bit contemporary about her, which, again, in hindsight, I actually think kind of works for the particular story we're telling, because she is a little bit of an iconoclast. She is kind of like the one Amazon who kind of breaks the Amazon paradigm. She's the one who like kind of defies the gods and kind of defies her mother, and actually kind of wants to get off the island. And so it actually kind of works, but we did have to kind of bring her back a little bit more towards the middle. She was a little bit too modern day sounding at first, I thought, but she adjusted very well. So.
Sort of a basic question, but this version of Wonder Woman, what were the biggest influences for it from other pre-existing media? Was it a specific comics run, or was it a particular origin story that was told?
No, it actually wasn't based on any specific comic. I know there was some misinformation about that early on. Some people were saying, "Oh yeah, it's based on the George Perez version." It really isn't. There are similarities, but it's not specifically based on George's run. It's kind of like what we've always done with all the characters. We kind of look back at the entire history of the character and kind of cherry pick the things about those versions that we like and smush them all together and see if they work. So there's stuff in there from the Linda Carter series, there's stuff in there from the Greg Rucka run, there's stuff in there from the George Perez run, there's even stuff from like the very first Golden Age Wonder Woman comics. So it's kind of an amalgam of a lot of different things, but it's not specifically based on any one version.
So you didn't stick in any of that great stuff that William Moulton Marston stuck into the original Wonder Woman comics?
No Etta Candy?
I was thinking more about the bondage and the crazy, submission to dominant powers.
We actually in one of the earlier drafts we were planning on playing that up a little bit about that if she gets bound, that then she loses her powers and stuff, which I actually don't really have a problem with, even in terms of modern day feminism, because I think it's actually thematically really strong. But DC Comics specifically said we don't really like that part of her mythos anymore. We don't play with that at all anymore. So I think they're kind of shy about the whole bondage thing. I don't know why.
Was that the only? Actually, just riffing on that, did you run into anything else that they what notes did you get from DC? That you could talk about.
I can't think of anything that was like anything major or a deal breaker of any kind. It was all pretty amicable. I can't think of anything else really.
There's a lot of rumors, there always is with major characters, there's going to be a live-action version of this character. If they've been talking about that for Wonder Woman for a while. If that does happen, what could you say about this film that your film has that a live-action film could never have? Does that make sense, what I just said?
Yeah. I don't think there's really anything. I mean, this movie's got a huge scale. If this movie were a live-action movie, it would cost probably hundreds of millions of dollars. But that doesn't seem to be a problem in Hollywood these days. But there's not really anything in this movie that they couldn't do. I don't have a good answer to that. Sorry.
So how come they have so much trouble when you manage to get it out?
It's a different paradigm. I think for an animated feature, there's a lot less costs involved when you're talking about doing a live action theatrical film. You're talking like literally hundreds of millions of dollars, and it's a much bigger gamble. So whereas our film is, well, it's made quite a bit less than that. So it's less of a roll of the dice. So and honestly, I think chances are that a live action Wonder Woman movie probably will get made someday. I just think there's whether rightly or wrongly, I think there's probably a fear in Hollywood that female superheroes don't have the same box office potential as male superheroes do. And I've actually even heard executives say, "Oh well, yeah, look at that Catwoman movie." Well, it's like, well, the Catwoman movie just sucked. Basically, it had nothing to do with whether it was a female or not. So, but I do understand the reticence because it's when you're gambling that much money, you pretty much want to guarantee that return. So.
You've taken some fairly stodgy old characters from the Batman run and made them iconic again. I'm thinking of like Mr. Freeze. Do you think that maybe 20 or 30 years from now they're still going to be using your particular versions of these characters? Because you really breathe fresh life into them, a lot of them from the series.
I don't know, maybe. Probably somebody else will come along and do something even better with them, hopefully, between them. So, I don't know. Hard to say.
Just one other question. I understand the episode Far From Home from Justice League was supposed to be some sort of a pilot for a Legion of Scarlet show. Was that ever actually seriously
Really?
considered?
No.
So the fanboys in the internet have no idea what they're doing.
Imagine how that could happen.
Because people like us tell them no.
No, we just wanted to do a Legion of Superheroes story, and again, going from the comics where Supergirl and Brainiac had a romance in the comics, we thought, oh, this would be kind of a interesting thing to do with Supergirl that we hadn't done before. We'd never really shown her, as getting into more adult issues of romance and stuff. So it would just seem like a kind of a fun thing to do. But it wasn't really ever intended to be a pilot.
Who are the biggest influences on your style?
Yeah,
Or even who started you? Why did you want to draw? I guess when you were younger, like who was?
that's an even tougher question.
Sorry.
I just always drew ever since I was a little kid. I mean, most kids draw when they're kids, whether they're good or bad, but they just do.